Sorry about that. And you probably didn't have the audio when I clicked out there during the intro as well, but we got that fixed up. So we're back now here. If you didn't hear that, that was Jaron Hang that we were talking about. Jerry here, he's one of the Nebraska track and field and cross-country athletes, so we'll have him there for the second segment. So sorry about that. But joining us now here for our Husker Headline segment at Corn-Fed Sports in the Morning, joined by Gage Peak. So Gage, jump us in. Where are we going first with this?
Let's go with women's swimming. Let's go start out with women's swimming first.
Well, there we go. So we'll bring up that. Nebraska women's swimming team this last weekend was on the road. They beat Illinois in a duel, and they got they got the program
record.
mark. They set the school record at that win. They fell in a couple of the Northwestern duels. They were able to win a different dual match, but they didn't win the overall. So that kind of
overall, though, and with the program, just talking to some people in the athletic department, they're really excited about the new record. Just improving.
Definitely, whenever you set records, and they've done it in some of the other programs, and you see all those coming along. They have a great leader. They have great figures in that program. They've had some athletes that come out. Not only have they set a program record, they have the 12-3 record. So that 12 wins surpasses the previous season best. But they have some athletes who go out there. Bailey Pons goes out there and just destroys people in her events. And they've caught up with some teams like San Diego State, and they're doing some things in the different races. It's not just what they're winning and how they're winning, but they're doing things that, they're drawing in some of the big races, some of the people that see in the Olympic qualifiers and some of those different kind of, mainstream events that some of the bigger swimmers and some
trying
of the people,
to build their program to make it to the next level.
Definitely. So with Nebraska women's swimming and diving, we started with them because they set a program record. Now they move on to they want to do something, make an impact in the postseason, make an impact beyond the dual season. So their dual season came to an end, so we'll keep you updated on where Nebraska swimming and diving goes. So we'll move on, and we'll go to another team who had a successful last weekend, and that's the Nebraska women's gymnastics team. Nebraska was able to beat Michigan. They defeated Illinois last week. Sorry, we have that messed up there on the screen for you. But they were able to get that win last week against Illinois. Michigan State was their first one of the year. So we have that wrong there on the screen, but they were able to beat Illinois. The score is still correct. It was a 1-point edge. Nebraska, Janelle Giblin got back to what we were used to seeing.
Right.
Posted I believe it was a 9.95 to take the bars title. Jamie Schleppenbach, who will be our Big Red Boss of the Week. We have that segment coming out, so she won our Big Red Boss of the Week. She got a split of one of the titles and won the vault titles. So you see those event specialists, you see those people who are kind of the fringe performers, and the people who do who've become all conference performers and even all Americans on those events. They're getting back to putting up their numbers. Obviously, the coaches and the athletes know that their team score is not where they want to be. They're still hovering just in that top 10 range.
It's good that we got the win, even though we had some of our better athletes not do as well in the meets. So it's impressive that we still got the W.
Definitely. So yeah, I think that you'll see it this next week. They got Penn State. They got the Pack the House this weekend at the Devaney Center. They'll probably get another big crowd.
Right.
They feed off that kind of stuff. You'll see the freshmen on the younger athletes. You could see them kind of having some of those jitters. They use the big crowd the first night out, the second night out. It's matching those expectations. So that's where the tough part comes in. So you'll expect to see that progression. You'll expect to see them kind of settle in.
Yes.
When they get out on the road, they're putting up big routines. They got a bunch of all-arounders going. They have the top, some of the top all-arounders in the Big Ten.
Yep.
So look for Nebraska to get back to contend and keep moving. But they got another home meet this weekend. So they still got the win last weekend against Illinois, not Michigan State. Sorry about that. But we'll move forward.
Move on.
So we'll move on next to the other gymnastics team here in town, the Nebraska men's gymnastics team, who got second to number 8, or they were number 9. They got second to number 6 Minnesota, and also saw them compete with University of Illinois Chicago, a team that they have already defeated at the Devaney Center this year. Wyatt Aycock won the all-around after not competing against UIC at the Devaney Center. He jumps back, obviously the season best. It's early in the year, so that doesn't mean a lot.
Wyatt's steadily improved since coming last year. He's gotten better he gets better each time. So
definitely, and to look at those numbers from people like Eric Shriver, from Wyatt, from CJ Shah, and some of those people is going to be even more important because of the rule change, because of looking at some of those kind of things where it's 5 up and 5 go, and sort of see those people progress and have all-arounders who you can not just be in there to try and win the all-around, but can really compete at every event is going to be crucial. So to see some of those guys who are the all-arounders, who are some of the more versatile guys, and some of the guys who are the event specifics, you're going to need those 1 or 2 guys in an event. If you have 3 all-arounders, you only have 5 who can count. You're going to need those 1 or 2 event specialists to really go big instead of just trying to get 5 guys who are capable of competing. So the men's gymnastics team still, obviously you're on the road against a higher-ranked top 10 team. No shame in falling there, but took care of business against the lower-ranked team, still trying to move up. But
getting better.
Within the program, they've talked about how this is one of the best teams they've had in a while. So you'll see. I think you'll see a progression. You'll see those scores keep going up.
Yep.
All right, we'll move to another championship team from this last weekend, and actually they're a two-time champion now.
Yes.
The Nebraska bowling team won the Prairie View A&M Invitational. They came out of the gates a little bit slow, but like is important, and not just in this tournament, but in every tournament for bowling. Finished strong, came through on those final
They had an overall record of 11-2 throughout the weekend. One of those, they beat the defending national champion Maryland Eastern Shore 4-1 Sunday on day 3 of the competition. They started out slow, like you said. They came back. Liz Colkin, she came back, got all tournament, and she really helped us out. She had a 209 average through the whole tournament, and she really kept us in it. And then coming out this weekend, they should go for 3. So.
Going for 3, and not only just going for 3, but they're at the same lanes, they're in the same environment where they were. So it's a place that they're used to. It's somewhere that they're establishing some sort of continuity. And it won't just be important for going out there and trying another one, but I think it'll be a really good test in a sport like bowling when you can see everything under a microscope and you can say, hey, these conditions are the same. It's the same environment.
The same
what went
teams,
better? What went? And so I think it'll be interesting. You can really use this as a learning experience to say back-to-back, similar environments, same place. And, there aren't a lot of things that are changing. So if those circumstances are kept the same, you can really tell what the athletes are capable of and where
they're on the same schedule. They leave the same time. They come back the same time. It's basically the same thing as last week. They just got to continue to perform and get the 3rd tournament win of the season.
Yep. All right, we'll move on. We'll keep going through. And in case it hasn't become apparent at this point, this is kind of our Olympic sport day here. We had men's, women's basketball on Monday, so this is where we're living up to our all Husker Sports all the time name. So we're moving on. We'll move on to women's tennis. Another team like we mentioned last year. The women's tennis team actually did set a program record for wins last year. So imagine swimming and diving. That's the program we're talking to. And they've kept on clipping this year. They beat Ohio State this past weekend on the road. First Big Ten win.
Yep.
And it's big because not only is it getting a conference win, getting that first one out of the way, and on the road, but they have the ITA team indoor championships. They showed well in the kickoff event in Lincoln.
Right.
So it's big for them to, these national
get
events.
momentum going in because there's going to be some tough teams they're going to face.
And even if they don't make a run, even if they don't do something, extreme, to make a name, to show that not only do they have a program best, but they're going to improve on it. They can keep going. I think is going to be big for how this program progresses. But if the last year, if the early matches this year have been any indication, they can certainly go big.
Yeah.
All right, we'll switch to the other side there with the men's tennis team who's actually in Lincoln this past weekend. So they got their first win of the year. It was actually only their second match of the year, so it's not as dramatic as we're making it out to seem. But first home match, they got the win. They had a tough match against Oklahoma State on Sunday. Nebraska was real close. They could have won that one. It was another 1 point, but it looked early on like they were going to go that way, but it switched on in the end. They got 3 more, or I believe 3 this weekend. But they got
some good competition. They got Drake and Virginia Commonwealth. VCU actually is returning conference champion out of the Colonial Athletic Conference, so they're going to have some tough competition coming up.
But it'll be nice to have them in this environment and to have to have some of those same kind of things where you can take back-to-back weekends, kind of put it under and learn from it. So I think that you again saw them progress as well as the women's program last year. So they're not just trying to compete. They're not just going out there and seeing what they can scrap together. This is a process. They're trying to keep getting better, and they have some people in place to where I think they can keep pushing there. So got the first win. They got more opportunities this weekend. I'm sure they'll keep adding to it. So we'll wrap it up here. We put this purposely because we got Jaron here coming in the next segment. So we'll finish up with the Nebraska track and field team. They got 6 event titles at the Savine Invitational this past weekend. On the women's side, Mara Grieva,
a leader of the women's team right now.
Had a first and second place finish. Took the field athlete of the week for the on the women's side. So that's adding to some other honors they had last week. So
something you can talk to Jaron about is that meet was just stacked with some of the top competition. I mean, when I walked in, I was expecting it to be a typical meet where you see D2 schools and some of the area schools around, and I was shocked to see when I walk in Florida University, Auburn, Kentucky were there, and I was just like, everything.
I'm right there with you. I was moving around the debate, so there's a lot going on last week, but I pop in there on Friday and I'm like, wait, so you're running here? It's like, wait a second, like this is a little different than I originally thought. So I kind of had that same impact, but at the same time, you saw them go out there and put up some big performances.
Absolutely. Not
just in terms of who they're directly competing with, but keeping those numbers going. At Nebraska, they've shown that in this track and field program, not just field, but running as of recent and all the different lengths that they have. They have some freshmen who've shown some speed early on, and they have some people in the different, all the various events. So they're not just focused on going out there and winning the jumps and having, focusing on their defending national champs throws or little things like that. They're trying to keep progressing as a program. You see them pushing at all those different events, and you see, in events where there isn't an upperclassman who's an all-conference performer, who is like one of those, you have a younger person who's coming along, who's making strides, who's, who can do it down the road. So it's nice to see layers like that. You can see that it's not just the same event every year. There are some schools that just hammer to, we're going to win this event every year. We're going to win this event every year. And I think that Nebraska's doing a good job of, when one talent leaves, they have talent in different areas and in different places. So
something to add to that is, we say you have 6. We had 6 titles. We could have probably had 7. Hopefully, a future guest of ours, James White, did not high jump during the meets, so that was a big miss for us. But
again, like I said, trying to put national marks on, he's the one example. That first, it was the meet that probably you look at all the home meets, they'd think, this is the one that's going to slide under the radar. The atmosphere he had there, what he had going on for that high jump when he cleared, bested 7.5. I mean, that's unreal. Like, I look at that and I get nervous, like even trying to touch that bar, let alone jump over it.
I'll just say, I don't even think I can touch it standing.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
Well, there we go. Well, that wraps up our Olympic Sport Husker headlines. We'll take a quick break here, and we'll come back, and we'll have Jaron Hang in studio guest. Sorry about that. All right, we're back here now with our second segment of today's Corn-Fed Sports in the Morning. Joining me, we got Mr. Jerry here. We got our first in-studio guest. He's live. We didn't do this last night. We didn't do this last week like we've done before. He actually has to deal with us if I ask him some ridiculous questions. We're going to get some ridiculous answers. So you guys better be ready for some TV magic. Not just the Seahawks vest and the overall look. If you could have seen his rabbit outfit from this last weekend, you would be even more impressed. Mm-hmm. So we'll get to that in a second. So today we got a little bit going on. So he matched that. I forgot to explain this in the first segment. U.S. men's team kicks off their qualifiers today, so I'm representing as well. So we got our sports gear going on here. So that's the theme of the day. So we'll just start off. We'll start off with a little more practical question.
All right.
Just at this point in the season, indoor, obviously the brighter day with outdoor, and you don't want to be in a confined environment, especially at your events.
Yep.
I mean, how much is it just a grind to just stay focused and take care of little things that you can?
Going into the indoor season, it's like you said, it's kind of tedious because you're not outside, you're not dealing with the elements that you get when you run outside. So the indoor season, it's a fun season to go into because you can run fast times. Going 25 times around the track for a 5K isn't the funnest, and it's not the prettiest sport to watch. But when you get a personal best, you get your best mark. It's a fun thing to do. But right now it's getting down to the Big Ten. Big Ten season's coming up, and 2 weeks is going to be here. And our Coach Harris, he has us doing great workouts, has has us getting down to the little fundamental things. I mean, out kicking people, pace. So I mean, going into these last few weeks, I mean, it's really a mental struggle to stay positive and to stay focused to get to where you really want to be.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things that's interesting is that you guys aren't necessarily worried about the same progressions, and you don't want to see time progression. You're not worried about that. But then it gets to the end of the year, it's about conference wins, about momentum, it's about excitement. That you just try and embrace those little things. When you're at the meet, everybody's into it. Everybody's noticing what's going on.
Oh yeah.
I mean, how important is that for you guys to get not just see results, because obviously said indoor is much different, but to build momentum and to build excitement during the indoor season.
Like you said this last week when you went into the track, I mean, you saw all those great teams. You had Florida, you had Auburn. I mean, Jeremy Warner was there, who was a 2-time Olympian and the 400-meter record holder in the world for about 4 years. So, I mean, all the people who are there, I mean, it gets your adrenaline going, it gets you rushing. And like you said, I mean, when it comes down to Big Ten season, it's really not what time you run, it's what you play. So, I mean, it could be out kicking someone. It could be taking the race out fast. So I mean, everybody gets into it, and the team's great for support, for a supportive group. So I mean, Big Ten's going to come up, and I think we got a really good chance of taking home the title.
Definitely, and I'll end it on this one as far as serious, more like track type related questions. But I just wanted to get to this one because I think it's really important. When you get into the indoor, you see the Devaney Track Center, you see the type of things you guys are doing. I've been at practice before. I've gotten covered.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I know that the SEC and some of those places have the Olympians, have that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think Nebraska, facility-wise, other things-wise, has come along and they're on that top tier. Do you think that people don't get that your workouts, your equipment, the way you guys are doing things, the way you build this program can contend with anybody in the country?
And that's the thing. I don't think a lot of people see Nebraska as a top-tier track school, but our coach tells us that our indoor track is one of the top 5 in the nation. And I mean, not a lot of people see that, but when they come to Nebraska, when recruits come for visits and they see what we have, I mean, they're flabbergasted. They just really don't know what to say, because they didn't think Nebraska, this place with a bunch of corn and cows, I mean, are going to have great facilities, great weight room, great stuff like this. So I mean, it's a real eye opener. But when people come here and they see what we have, I mean, we can pull people from the south, from the north, from the west, all to come to Nebraska and give our team that overall good.
Exactly. And I don't think you see a future Jamaican Olympian come to Nebraska and win a national championship unless you have that ability, unless you can do those kind of things. So I think you see that kind of stuff on display. So now we're going to move into some of the more fun stuff, some of the more lighthearted stuff. So I know he's a big basketball player. I've heard legends, I've heard tales. I haven't gotten to see it in action. There's one game at the Devaney Center where the track kids found a basketball afterwards, and we're doing some fun things, and so I got to catch a glimpse. But we got a future. So how do you think, if you had to guard Aaron Kraft for 40 minutes from Ohio State, if you were walk-on basketball, Nebraska star, you think you could take Aaron Kraft for a little bit?
I think I could take him for the full 40 minutes. I'm a lockdown defender. Also, I'm a great shooter, so if Aaron Kraft came in my way, I'd be one of those trash talkers, giving him all the stuff he could handle. But, at the end of the day, I'm going to hold him to like 2 to 3 points. So I think I'd be the best defender to, guard him. So
I think so, too. And, just seeing you out there and, seeing, last week, getting out there, seeing you stride out a little bit. I think you could even take on Tim Hardaway, somebody like that, even a little more lanky. I think you could make it. You think you could take a bigger guy and use your scrappiness?
When I was watching Tim Hardaway last night, I thought he kind of took his game after my own. I think he maybe saw a couple of my shots at the Devaney Center when they were taping me. So I think that if I went up against Tim Hardaway, he is the son of a famous basketball player, but that doesn't mean that I can't go toe-to-toe with him. I mean, I think I could knock down some threes in his face. So.
Definitely, and I'm not going to ever try and tell you to take on Glenn, because Glenn Robinson the third will elbow you in the neck. And,
he will.
He's the man. So you don't mess with him.
Yeah,
you don't mess with him. His pops made that really clear.
Yep.
I'm glad we didn't go to that area. So we're going to keep it going a little bit with some of the lights. So if you could take on any Husker athlete in their sport and get to go one-on-one, who is the one person that you would want to call out and put on blast and see if you could take them one-on-one in their sport?
Put on blast? Dang.
Well, not put on, that's too harsh.
That is kind of harsh.
The T. Laudermill effect of saying going ham in a press conference last week wore off on me, so I had to say that put on blast. Maybe I'm just channeling my inner Eminem talking about Christina Aguilera.
I have a lot of good friends in the athletics department, but like you were talking, men's tennis, I'm a master ping pong player, so I think that my master ping pong playing can relate to tennis. So if I could get Eric Sock out on the tennis court and go one-on-one with him, I'm like Roger Federer. I will not lose. So if I went with him, if I was playing Eric, you know, I'd probably beat him 3-0, and I'd probably have to say I could probably turn pro in about 5 weeks after practicing tennis, because I mean, I played a couple Asians at the rec this last couple weeks, and you know, they have good ping pong skills, but I showed them how to do it. So
definitely, and although I agreed with you on the basketball one, I'm going to buy with you there. You mentioned the Federer reference, so I'm going to say that Eric will probably destroy you, because Eric and Jack are both Team A-Rod and Team Roddick.
You are,
and
yeah,
as the most, I mean, I'm not going to contend with them, but as the most, I met Andy at the Special Olympics a couple years ago. I watched tennis for Andy Roddick. I existed for Andy Roddick for a while there. So the fact that you mentioned Federer, I hope that you lose 3 sets straight in the best of 5, and I hope that maybe a couple of rackets break or some bad things happen to you, because, you know, mentioning that and then saying you're going to beat a sock, that's just cold-blooded right there. So that might be a little bit harsh. Well, cool. Well, we're going to wrap this up here. We got a recruiting signing day special coming later on this afternoon, so we're not going to take up too much of your time here. The good news, though, is that we're going to get them to stick around here. We're going to have Super Smash Brothers Challenge. We have all of our corn-fed challenges coming out in the next week here. We have a segment where we're going to do some of the lighthearted things. So we'll see his Super Smash Bros. Skills at work. We got some women's gymnasts who played Mario Kart, and then we got somebody else breaking down some YouTube videos and some fun things like that. So you'll catch more of him there, but thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thank you
very
much.
It's a pleasure having you on.
Great time.
Hopefully we'll have some more live guests coming here soon. We'll get your input. We'll get some questions back and forth. So for Corn-Fed Sports, I'm Pat Radigan.